Oh, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Jay Lee, bringing us a 2023 AFC East tier ranking positional video. I saw this on Twitter where someone tier ranked their favorite team's division. My favorite team is the New England Patriots, so in today's video, I am going to be tier ranking each and every position in the AFC East, starting with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, the offensive line, the defensive line, linebackers, cornerback, safeties, and then finally special teams. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big Patriots fan, so I decided to do the AFC East. If you guys want me to do this for another division, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. Obviously, like I said, I'm just doing the AFC East because I'm a big Patriots fan. I hope you guys enjoy. A lot of content coming within the next coming weeks. I know football's kind of at that dead time where we're getting to off-season and training camps and not too much news is going on, but I'm going to be getting out as much as content as I can relating to the 2023 NFL season that is upcoming. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. But without further ado, let's just get to the video. Starting off at quarterback, I think it comes down between Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. And to start, you look at the stats from last year between the two. Aaron Rodgers had a passer rating of 91.1 with 3,695 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions in 17 games in 2022. Josh Allen had a passer rating of 96.6 with 4,283 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions in 16 games. Josh Allen missed one game last year. Josh Allen had a much better year last year, in my opinion, and I do think he is above Aaron Rodgers right now. Now, I do think with the offensive additions that they added to the Jets, and we'll talk about that in a minute, with the weapons Aaron Rodgers now has on offense, I do think he is going to have a much better year than he did last year. Is he going to be better than Josh Allen in this upcoming season? I think it's going to be close. Allen obviously had a turnover problem last year. If that continues, I do think there's a good chance that Aaron Rodgers is ranked higher than Josh Allen when the actual season hits. But with the offensive additions that the Bills had, I do think Josh Allen is going to have a much better year this year because obviously he is a very good quarterback and he had a very good year last year. Just the turnover issues kind of plagued him. So if he can fix those turnover issues, I think he is going to be a front runner for MVP. But I do think Aaron Rodgers, if he can have an up year as well, I do think he could be a front runner for MVP as well. Aaron Rodgers is getting old though, and we haven't seen him with the Jets. So for that reason, I am taking Josh Allen as the quarterback one in the AFC East. As the quarterback two, though, I am going Aaron Rodgers. I think he's above Tua. I think he's above Mac Jones. I think it is going to be a pretty tight race, though, between Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, though, I don't think it's going to be too close, and I do think Josh Allen is going to have the edge over Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers will then be quarterback two. Quarterback three is going to be Tua Tagovailoa. Now, this is another guy. I do think all three of these quarterbacks have very high potential this upcoming season. I think Tua has a very high potential if he can stay healthy. That was the one major concern last year with the head injuries. If he can stay healthy and that offensive line can protect him, which we'll talk about the O-line in a minute, I do think Tua can have a great year as well. With the weapons he has, with the great head coach he has, I do think Tua can be a solid quarterback just if he can stay healthy. But I don't see him being better than Aaron Rodgers, and I don't see him being better than Josh Allen. But I do think there is a small chance if he can stay healthy. But right now, Tua Tagovailoa going to be the quarterback three, followed by Mac Jones in last place. You guys know I'm a big fan of Mac Jones. If you watched any of my other videos before, I do not think they need another quarterback. There were some talks that he was getting shipped to other teams and shopped over the offseason that they might get quarterback in the draft. I'm very glad they didn't. I am very high on Mac Jones. I think with the offensive coordinator addition of Bill O'Brien, who some people aren't a big fan of, but even if he's not that good of an offensive coordinator, just the fact that we now have an offensive coordinator and it's no longer Matt Patricia calling the plays, I do think Mac Jones is going to have another great year. I think we're going to see the rookie season numbers he had last year. Obviously was a bit of a down year for him, but I do think this upcoming year, in his third year, we are going to see the biggest leap we've seen in Mac Jones so far, and I think he's going to have an even better year than his rookie year. So that's my quarterback ranking right now. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, then last place Mac Jones. And we'll talk more about it. Now, this isn't just based solely off the quarterback performance. This is based off the offensive weapons they have and the O-line and all of that stuff as well. So I'm going to talk about the O-line, tight ends, wide receiver, and all that stuff in a minute. So it's based off of those two things combined, quarterback play and then the offense they're dealing with. I do think Mac Jones is dealing with probably the worst offense here, but I do think the addition with Bill O'Brien is going to significantly help him in the play calling for that offense. We go to the running back, and at first place, I don't think this one is that close. I have the New York Jets, and a lot of people forget about this guy, Breece Hall, who was in contender for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, but with Garrett Wilson on the Jets, he kind of got overshadowed, and then he also tore his left ACL in Week 9, I believe, so not a lot of people are remembering him right now, but he was in contention for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award before he got hurt. He was explosive, fast, great player for the Jets. Coming in at RB2, Zonovan Knight, RB3, Michael Carter, who both were very solid starters while Breece Hall was hurt. Breece Hall is expected to be ready to go by Week 1, so it is a pretty good triple backfield for the New York Jets, so I have them at RB1, especially with Breece Hall. I mean, he alone, I think, is good enough to be RB1 rank 1 on the RB category for this. But then you add good depth at the running back position as well. Moving up next, we have the New England Patriots. I think they have a pretty solid backfield as well. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson, the best running back. I think he still is better than Breece Hall. I think you can make the argument for that. Or I don't know if he's necessarily better, but he is in contention with them at least. He had a very good year last year. RB2, James Robinson, who the Patriots signed in free agency. I think if he can play like his rookie year and they can kind of get him as a rotational piece in the backfield, I think he is going to be a good running back. And then Pierre Strong at RB3. Pierre Strong, young guy. He is very strong, though. Good power back for the Patriots, so good depth there at RB3. I do think with Ramondre Stevenson, he is a big bonus to that backfield as well. Moving on, though, in third place, I have the Buffalo Bills. I actually think the Bills' backfield is better than people are giving it credit for. James Cook, who I really like James Cook, I think now that the Bills' interior offensive line, which we'll talk about in a minute, is better, I do think James Cook is going to have a much better year, too. Damian Harris at RB2, who they picked up over free agency. Damian Harris is solid as well. That'll be a good rotational backfield with the two of them. Latavius Murray and then Nyheim Hines at RB3 and RB4. So it's a good backfield mixed with some young guys on their second year, free agency guys, and then some veterans and Latavius Murray as well. I like Nyheim Hines, a receiving back. It's a pretty good depth. I think you could make the case they are better than the Patriots in the backfield. I think you could. I have the Patriots one tier higher, but I think it is interchangeable between the two. And then at RB4 rank, I have the Miami Dolphins. Not too much going on in their backfield. Raheem Mostert, followed by Jeff Wilson, and then Devin Achane, who they drafted in the draft. So it's not a bad backfield, but just not as good as the Bills, Patriots, or Jets. Raheem Mostert, very fast. Same thing with Jeff Wilson. It's a very speedy backfield. Then they did have Devin Achane as well, who is a little more of a power back. It's a good backfield, and I think if Devin Achane can play, like if he can step up and play very well, I do think it could be one of the better backs in the division. I think they could move up, but as of now, the Patriots, Bills, and Jets all do have pretty solid backfields, so that is why the Dolphins are the RB4 right now. Up next, we have the receiving core. I think this one is pretty obvious. It is the Miami Dolphins in first place. The best duo in the league, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, is enough to put it in first place. They also added Cedric Wilson in the slot over the offseason. He's a good 6'2", versatile receiver. They also added Braxton Berrios as well, who's going to get a lot of reps on special teams. Robbie Anderson, now Chosen Anderson, but the main thing is just Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, two top 10 receivers. Tyreek Hill, arguably the best receiver in the league. Jalen Waddle, top 10. It's the best receiving duo in the league, and I don't really see anyone arguing with that. I think that alone is enough to put them at the first rank in the AFC East. Now, the one kind of concern is it's not a very thick receiving core. Like if Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle could not play, like if they got hurt or something, you wouldn't have really anyone big to rely on. Robbie Anderson, River Craycraft, I believe that's how you say his name. It's not a very thick wide receiver core, but you still have Tyreek Hill, you still have Jalen Waddle, so that makes it the best in the AFC East and one of the best in the league. Moving on to second place, I have not the Bills, I have the Jets. I think the Jets receiving core is better than the Bills right now, mainly because Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is going to be one of the best receivers in the league this year. You look at that guy. He was the offensive rookie of the year last year with Zach Wilson and Mike White throwing him the football. Now he has a top 10, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now throwing him the football. He is going to be one of the best receivers and have one of the biggest year twos I think we've ever seen in a receiver. You also have Allen Lazard, who is following Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay, moving over to the Jets with him, so they have chemistry. Mecole Hardman, who they picked up in the slot, versatile guy who is a good deep threat. Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, and Randall Cobb, who is a good veteran slot receiver who is also coming from Green Bay. I think it's the best depth wide receiver chart in the league, or one of the best in the league, not the best, but one of the best. Definitely the best in the AFC East, and I do think with the weapons Aaron Rodgers has now, it's going to be one of the best receiving cores in the league. I really do mean that. I know it sounds crazy, but Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Corey Davis, I think all of these guys are going to flourish now that they have a good, solid quarterback to work with, and I do have them above the Bills, which I know is a bit surprising, but in third place, I have the Bills, and I know it might seem a little low, like to have them under the Jets, but other than Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, there's really no one special on this receiving core. Gabe Davis, who after the playoff game in 2021, everyone thought he was going to have one of the best seasons ever. Everyone thought he was going to go crazy in 2022. He didn't. He was very up or down. He was either catching 5 balls for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, or he had 1 catch for 15 yards. He was very inconsistent in 2022. Stephon Diggs was great, but he was really the only consistent, solid wide receiver on that team. The one position they lost, or the one guy they lost that was a bummer, was they lost Isaiah McKenzie in free agency. They really did not replace him in the slot with anyone in the draft or free agency. Right now, it's Deontay Hardy, who you could definitely get an upgrade there. at the slot. They did add a tight end who we'll talk about in a minute, who I do think will kind of play the role of the slot receiver, but you definitely could add a better slot receiver over this offseason. Gabe Davis, like I said, if he can be more consistent and, even if he's just solid, like a good, solid, consistent wide receiver too, I think that would be better than him either having a, 150-yard game or a one catch for 15-yard game. I think if he can get more consistent, I do think that will majorly help. Stephon Diggs, obviously, he's great, one of the best in the league, but other than that, it's not that good of a receiving core. And then moving on to fourth place is my New England Patriots. It hurts me to say this. I do think it will be a pretty solid receiving core in 2023. I do think it is going to be much better. Starting off, you have Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, and then Juju Smith-Schuster, who was the biggest addition this offseason for that receiving core. You do also have Kayshon Boutte, who they added in the later rounds of the draft, Tyquan Thornton, who hopefully can have a better year too as well. So I do think this receiving core for the Patriots has potential. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last year. I do think, like I said, with the offensive addition of Bill O'Brien, I do think this receiving core is going to be much better. I do think Mac Jones is going to greatly improve, and with that improvement, the receiving core will also improve. So I could see this receiving core shocking some people and not being anything super special, not being anything incredible, but I could see it being better and surprising some people with how good it is. But until then, and until I see that improvement, it is in fourth place because there's not really that one guy where you're just super worried about, that one big playmaker. Hopefully someone like Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe Kendrick Bourne can step up to be that. But until then, it is in fourth place for the receiving core. Up next, we have the tight end position, and I think tight end goes to the Bills. I think they have the best tight end depth in the league, and I think they have two very solid tight ends. First off, we all know they traded up for Dalton Kincaid in the draft, which I did not see that coming. I thought that was a very bold move. But to me, I see this being their version of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I think they're trying to recreate that with Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, who is a very good receiving tight end. You also have Dalton Knox. I think they're going to have very different roles on that team. I think Kincaid is going to be the more receiving tight end, the more vertical threat tight end. I think Dawson Knox is going to be more of a blocking tight end. But I do think that is a very good tight end duo. And since they did not pick up a slot receiver and, it's kind of an empty hole in that offense, I think Dalton Kincaid is going to kind of fill in for that slot receiver role that they're missing. You also have Dawson Knox, who is a good receiving tight end as well and who can fill that role if Kincaid can't. I do think, and Dalton Kincaid also has very high upside in the blocking role as well. So I do think it is a very good tight end duo, and I think it is one of the best in the league. I think we're going to see that in 2023. Moving on, though, to second place, I have my New England Patriots up there, signing Mike Gesicki in the offseason, Hunter Henry as well. They did trade away Jonnu Smith's offseason for a 7th round pick, I believe, to the Falcons. Hunter Henry, hopefully he can have a bit of a better year. Did kind of have a down year last year. Hopefully with the new offensive coordinator, which I'm kind of banking this whole offense is going to improve on with that new offensive coordinator, Hunter Henry can have a better year. Mike Gesicki as well, a good receiving tight end. I do think both were a solid pickup. The interesting thing, though, is both contracts are up in 2024, so it will be interesting to see. Mike Gesicki only on a 1-year deal, and Hunter Henry's contract is up next season, so it will be interesting to see if one of them has a good year and they decide to bring one or both of them back. Maybe they let both of them go and bring in a new tight end. I am curious to see what they do there. But for the meantime, for this upcoming year, I do think it is going to be a good duo in Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. Moving on to third place, I have the New York Jets. This is kind of the big fall off. Their tight end one right now is Tyler Conklin, who's not bad. He played for them last year. Wasn't anything special, but he was a solid piece. You did also get CJ Uzomah from the Bengals this offseason. That was last offseason, CJ Uzomah. Both are consistent. Both are solid. Neither one is anything super special, but both are consistent. And then moving on to tight end for rank, I have the Miami Dolphins. After losing Mike Gesicki, there's really no one that special there at tight end. They do have Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert, who they got from Denver. Nothing super special though. Tyler Kroft. They did get Elijah Higgins, who they got in the draft. They do have I'm looking at their roster, they do have 5 tight ends on their depth chart, I think, but I mean, no one really is super special there. So in last place, we have the Dolphins at the tight end position because, like I said, losing Mike Gesicki really hurt them. Moving on to the offensive line, I actually have my New England Patriots being the best offensive line in the AFC East. Now, I don't think this offensive line is anything super special. The main concern for this offensive line was the tackle position. They did sign right tackle Riley Leaf this offseason from the Bears. They did lose Isaiah Wynn this offseason. I do think it's a very questionable offensive line. The interior offensive line looks very good. Cole Strange going to have a big year too. Dave Andrews, the staple piece of that offensive line for the last several years. He is getting a little old though at center. And then right guard Michael Nwuna, who I actually think Michael Nwuna was one of the better right guards in the league. He was just kind of bouncing out of right guard and right tackle last year. Now that he is a sole right guard, I do think he's going to have a very good year. Right tackle Riley Reef, he is a bit older. He's solid, good starter, good veteran there at right tackle, and then left tackle Trent Brown, who had a very bad year last year, a lot of penalties, a lot of holding calls. Hopefully he can make some improvements. The Patriots did sign 3 interior offensive linemen, right guard, center, and left guard. Maybe one of them can play left tackle or right tackle, because there's going to be a lot of different movement around that offensive line this offseason, and I am curious to see what Bill Belichick does with it. But I do have faith that this offensive line is going to be pretty good, especially now that we got at least a solid, consistent right tackle. Moving on to the second best offensive line in the league, I have to give it to the Bills, mainly because of the major signing of O'Cyrus Torrence. I just drew a blank, but O'Cyrus Torrence, who they got in the draft. I had them getting him in the first round. I had them using their first rounder on him. They managed to get him in the second round. I thought that was an absolute steal. I thought that was one of the biggest steals of the draft, was O'Cyrus Torrence. That interior offensive line is what really struggled against the Bengals in the playoff game. That's what really kind of folded. Now they got a stable piece in O'Cyrus Torrence, who did not allow a single sack or quarterback pressure last year. I believe he is going to be starting at right guard. Or right now he's listed at second string right guard behind Ryan Bates. I definitely would be very surprised if he didn't start right away. Connor McGovern at left guard. I believe there has been talk that they might kick right guard out to right tackle and move O'Cyrus Torrence into right guard. Either way, wherever O'Cyrus Torrence goes, he is going to be he's going to be a staple piece on that offensive line, and I am very excited to see him in. As a Patriots fan, I was very sad when they got him. Especially in the second round, it was an absolute steal. I was pretty sad when they got him, but I can't help but admit it, that offensive line is pretty good. Moving on to third place, I have the New York Jets. That offensive line was a major priority in the draft, and my favorite move of the draft was when the Patriots traded down. The Jets traded up and took left tackle Broderick Jones right in front of the Jets to absolutely fleece the Jets. That was one of my favorite all-time Bill Belichick moves. That offensive line, it is looking pretty solid. You do have Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard, Joe Tippmann, who they took in the draft as well, at center, solid center, Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard, and then Max Mitchell at right tackle. The one main concern, though, was left tackle. They do need a left tackle who got stolen right in front of them in Broderick Jones, because obviously you want to protect Aaron Rodgers. I do think, actually, I think they're better. I think it is a better offensive line than the Bills now that I'm looking at it. I think it's more complete. I do think a big question, though, is Micah Becton. He was starting right tackle last year, obviously dealt with some injuries. I believe now there's a possibility that they move him to left tackle because they did not get a left tackle in the draft. There is possibilities that they move Micah Becton to left tackle, so I'm not sure exactly what they'll do. Obviously, though, banking on Micah Becton to stay healthy is a big if, because he does have some injury concerns. I do think that Jets offensive line is pretty solid, though, especially if Micah Becton can stay healthy, and Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, they help on the inside. I do think it will be a good offensive line. Moving on to fourth place, I have the Miami Dolphins. Other than left tackle Teron Armstead, who nobody seems to talk about, it's kind of a bummer because I do think he is one of the better left tackles in the league. That offensive line just isn't that impressive. That interior is pretty bad, and they do have a pretty okay right tackle. There were no changes to that offensive line, and we saw how bad it was last year in protecting Tua Tagovailoa, and there were no changes on that offensive line. Like I said, they do have a good left tackle, but the problem with having a good left tackle with a left-handed quarterback is the left tackle isn't even the blind side, it's the right tackle. So that offensive line, it's not that good. And, especially when you're one great staple piece of that offensive line as a left tackle, it's not even your quarterback's blind side. So I do hope that is something that they will definitely look to address this offseason, but they haven't so far. No changes have been made. So the Dolphins do have the worst offensive line in the AFC East for me. Moving on to the defensive line. This is a tough one that could go up any different way, really. I have it, though, with the Buffalo Bills at the best defensive line. Starting off, you got Gregory Rousseau on the edge. You also have Von Miller on the edge. Ed Oliver on the interior defensive line. The defensive line, the interior could definitely improve a little bit, but the edge is very good with Von Miller and Gregory Rousseau. Ed Oliver, a good staple piece in that interior defensive line as well. I do think it is pretty competitive with the defensive lines in this division. I do think the Patriots and Jets have pretty solid ones as well. Moving on to second place, though, I have my New England Patriots. I think it could be the best defensive line in the league, or not in the league, but in the division, depending on how well they do. The addition of Keon White is major. I think he will be a great rotational piece on that defensive line with Dietrich Wise and Christian Barmore in the interior and David Gottschalk. That is the one thing, as well as Lawrence Guy. That is the one position I could definitely see them upgrading, is that interior defensive line. They got some great edge rushers, Josh Uche as well. They could definitely improve the interior defensive line a bit, just to get someone a little bit younger and get another pass rusher. Christian Barmore and David Gottschalk, again, good veterans, but you could definitely get some youth on that interior defensive line. But I do think the edge rushers in Keon White, Dietrich Wise, and then Josh Uche. I do think it is a pretty solid defensive front, especially on the edge. Like I said, though, that interior defensive line could improve a little bit. Moving on to third place, I have the New York Jets. Now, this is interesting. There have been rumors that Quinnen Williams is not going to return with the Jets in 2023. If this happens, I think they go from third to fourth. I don't think that interior defensive line is good without him, but they do have very good edge rushers in John Franklin Myers and Carl Lawson. And then in the draft, after they got fleeced by the Patriots and could not take Broderick Jones, they went with Will McDonald, who I do think he will be a great rotational piece on that edge. But right now, I don't think he's going to be like the instant starter. So for that, I am giving them third place. I do think, though, again, that is a very good interior, a good edge. But like I said, the interior for that offense, a good interior for that defensive line. But if Quinnen Williams does not return, then that interior is going to be left with a pretty big hole, and I could definitely see it dropping from third to fourth below the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of the Miami Dolphins, in fourth place, I have the Miami Dolphins. Now, it's not a bad offensive or defensive line. I do think they are pretty good on the interior with Christian Wilkins, who had a very good year last year. The edge rushers, though, is where it gets a little weaker in Zach Sealer at the defensive edge. You also have Bradley Chubb, who is a good veteran, but he is getting old. Jerome Baker, David Long. It's an all right edge rushing group, but there is definitely room for improvement there. It's Jalen Phillips, who also had a pretty good year last year. Andrew Van Ginkel getting a little old. Not bad. They did add a lot of edge rushers and interior defensive linemen in the draft, so it'll be interesting. And over free agency, it will be interesting to see how that goes. But until then, and until we see some improvement with that defensive front for the Dolphins, I do give it last place. Moving on to the linebacker position, I have to give first place to my New England Patriots. I do think they have a very good linebacker core. Starting off, you got Matt Judon, who can play on the edge, but he can also drop back and play linebacker. You also have Juwan Bentley, who has been a stable piece of that linebacker class for a while. You also have Marte Mapu, who they added in the draft. They thought, at the time, I thought it was a bit of a reach, but if he can heal and his pectoral muscle injury heals, which it's looking like it is healing great, he is going to be a starter week 1, I believe, and he is a very good, versatile linebacker. It looks like he is going to be sitting behind Jelani Tavai, but Marte Mapu, who can play slot linebacker, outside linebacker, he can even move up to play edge. He can do a lot of different things on defense, so I do think adding him was great because even if he doesn't start right away at, slot linebacker, he could move up to be middle linebacker with Juwan Bentley. I do think it was a very good pick, and I do think they have a very good linebacker class. Moving on to the second place, though, and this one is arguable for first. I have the Buffalo Bills. You got Matt Milano, who is a great linebacker. Then you also have Dorian Williams, who they added as well out of Tulane in the draft. I do think it's a pretty good linebacker duo. Not too much depth besides there. They do have Terrell Bernard, who is solid. So it is a pretty decent linebacker duo between the two. I could like to see them get another middle linebacker as well. Dorian Williams actually could move over to middle linebacker and start there. Not a bad linebacker duo, though, for the Bills. Moving on to the New York Jets, I have them in third place. I think it's a pretty solid linebacker class, and what Robert Saleh has done with this linebacker class is pretty impressive. You have Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley, and then Jamin Sherwood, I think that's how you say his name, at slot linebacker. Pretty good. CJ Mosley, the veteran of that linebacker group. They also added Zaire Barnes to that middle linebacker class, who sit behind CJ Mosley for a year or two. It's a pretty solid linebacker class. There's no one really any special studs on that linebacker class, but it is a solid group, and Robert Saleh has made the best out of them. Moving on to last place, I do have the Miami Dolphins. They now 4 times straight in last place for linebackers. I know it's kind of crazy, but they do have Bradley Chubb, who can move back to play middle linebacker. He did that some last year. He can also play on the outside. I do like Bradley Chubb at linebacker. Like I said, Jerome Baker. The Dolphins do have a lot of guys who can play on the edge and drop back to play linebacker in Jerome Baker. I do think it's a pretty good linebacker class, but again, Bradley Chubb had a good year last year from Denver. Didn't do anything incredibly special. Same thing with Jerome Baker. It's not a bad linebacker class, but I don't think it's better than the Jets or the Bills or the Patriots. That is why they get last place in the linebacker position. Up next, we have the cornerback position, and I think it goes to my New England Patriots. Now, this is a tough one because, again, there's a lot of good cornerback depth on the Dolphins as well, and I could definitely see them, the Jets or the Bills. I could see either one of these 4 teams being the best cornerback team in the division, but I have to give it to my Patriots, and especially what Bill Belichick does with his cornerbacks. Normally, Bill Belichick takes a cornerback in like the 2nd to 3rd to 4th round and develops him. When he takes a cornerback in the 1st round, you know that he is going to be a freak athlete and freak of nature on the field. He did that that with Christian Gonzalez, who's going to be playing on the outside cornerback. Looks like he will be starting at left cornerback. Jack Jones going to be at right cornerback, Jonathan Jones in the nickelback, and then Marcus Jones at slot, it seems like, or he could also be cornerback 2 behind Christian Gonzalez. Very good, solid 4 starting cornerbacks right there. Marcus Jones, Jack Jones, Jonathan Jones, and then Christian Gonzalez. I think that's probably the biggest, like the most depth at cornerback you can have. Christian Gonzalez, if he pans out to be what I think he's going to be and what a lot of people think he's going to be, he could be the defensive rookie of the year. And then obviously you have the 3 Jones cornerbacks who are very solid as well. And I do think Christian Gonzalez filled in that one big need for another outside cornerback. So I do think that was a major addition. Moving on, in second place, I have the Miami Dolphins. Finally, they are no longer last. I think they have a very good cornerback depth chart as well. Obviously, they added Jalen Ramsey this offseason with a trade with the Rams. Steele, he's going to be at right cornerback. They added Cam Smith in the draft as well. Xavier Howard at left cornerback, who is getting a little bit older. Cam Smith will be a good cornerback 3 on the outside. Nickelback is Kader Koh. I actually could see Cam Smith moving into the nickelback while Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey are on the outside. But it is a very good cornerback trio with the 3, Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, and Cam Smith. I do think it is the best trio, one of the best trios in the league for the cornerbacks. Moving on to the third place, I have the New York Jets. Starting off, obviously, we have Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, rookie of the year last year, defensive rookie of the year. You also have, what's his name? DJ Reed, I forgot. DJ Reed on the outside as well, and then Michael Carter at nickelback. Very good. Bryce Hall, who also was pretty solid last year as well. I am very excited to see this secondary because it was very good last year. And they didn't do too much on it this year, but they don't really need to. It is a very good secondary, and I am very excited to see that duo in DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner improve and kind of grow this upcoming year. Sauce Gardner in his year 2, I think that's going to be one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And then finally in last place. Now, I will say this. I do not think it's a bad secondary, and I think all 4 of these teams are interchangeable and you can move them how you want. I don't think I don't think any of it's significantly better or worse than the other. But I have the Buffalo Bills, but it is still a very good secondary. In Tre'Davious White, you also have Micah Hyde, who is mainly playing free safety, but there has been talk that he might move to the outside cornerback, right outside cornerback. Teron Johnson as well in the nickelback. It's a very good duo in Tre'Davious White and Teron Johnson. The only thing is the depth. There's not much depth at the cornerback position besides Tre'Davious White and Teron Johnson. But I still think it's a very, Tre'Davious White, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Teron Johnson is a solid nickelback. It's just depth. All 3 of the teams, the Jets, Dolphins, and Patriots, have very good depth and have good rotational guys. Other than, like I said, Tre'Davious White and Teron Johnson, it's not super depth. Kaiir Elam, who was pretty good on the outside as well. He's a solid, consistent piece, but you would like to see them maybe get one more guy, at least on the outside, to be a rotational piece for the cornerback position. Moving up to the safety position, I have it the Bills. Now, the Bills going from first to worst. I think they have the best safety duo in the league in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Jordan Poyer, the strong safety, and Micah Hyde, the free safety. They also got Taylor Rapp this offseason over free agency from the Rams. Free safety, so good rotational guy, free safety there. And then DeMar Hamlin, who, if he comes back, that'd be incredible. He's listed on their depth chart right now. It seems like he is going to come back. He's a solid guy at strong safety as well. So they not only have 2 of the best strong safety and free safeties in the league, but they also have good depth there in DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp, who are both consistent guys. Moving on to second place, I have it being the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots have one of the best secondaries in the league. Starting off, you have Kyle Duggar at strong safety. The main question was who is going to play free safety now that Devin McCourty is no longer there. It seems like it is going to be Adrian Phillips, who has been a rotational piece in this defense for several years now. Or not several years, but for a while. He was a good rotational piece last year. That is the one kind of concern is free safety, Adrian Phillips, and then Jalen Mills as well. There has been talk that Jalen Mills is going to play free safety. Jalen Mills has played free safety before in college and in high school. He could go back to free safety because they don't really need any depth at the cornerback position right now. So I think it's kind of a toss-up between Adrian Phillips and Jalen Mills. Kyle Duggar, though, a great strong safety, and then Jabril Peppers at the second string strong safety. Pretty good duo between the two, and I think it is the second best in the league. Moving on to third place, though, I have the New York Jets. I think it's a pretty good strong safety, free safety duo. Chuck Clark out of Baltimore, or coming from Baltimore to the Jets. I think he is a very good, strong safety. I'm very excited to see that. And they also have Will Parks, who is solid. He's consistent. And then Jordan Whitehead at free safety. Nothing too special, but it's a good duo, especially with Chuck Clark being there now. I think it was a major addition. Moving on finally to the Dolphins in 4th place. I actually think the Jets are in 4th place now that I'm looking at it again. I know I made a couple changes. I think the Dolphins have the better safety positions than the New York Jets. Starting off, you have Javon Holland at free safety and Brandon Jones at strong safety. Both solid pieces. Javon Holland, very good at free safety. He's been good for a while now. I have them over the Jets. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, yes, I definitely have the Jets in 4th, below the Miami Dolphins. And again, I think you can make the argument. Actually, never mind. There's no argument. I think the Patriots are in 2nd. Patriots are going to have a very good secondary, but I think it's not even arguable that the Bills have the best safeties in the league, or at least in that division. Free safety, Micah Hyde, and then strong safety, Jordan Poyer. I mean, 2 of the best safeties in the league, both on your team, both being good at strong safety and free safety. So that is my safety ranking. Moving on finally to special teams. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this one, but first place, I do have the New England Patriots. They targeted a lot of special team skill guys in the draft in the later rounds, Isaiah Bolden and Amir Speed. They also targeted Chad Ryland in the 4th round, who was the 2nd kicker to go out of Maryland, and then they also got Bryce Behringer as their punter. 2 big kind of, surprises in the draft normally. I think they said they were the first team to take a kicker and a punter in the same draft ever, or since like 2003. The first team to do that in a long time, to say the least. And then on the kick returning team, you have Demario Douglas, who that was the one thing they lacked. Marcus Jones is a good punt returner, but they really needed a good kick returner. So Marcus Jones at punt returner, Demario Douglas at kick returner. I do think that is going to be a very good special teams unit. That was pretty bad last year. Wasn't really talked about a lot, but I do think Bill Belichick is really solidifying it this year because he doesn't want that to happen again. Moving up to the 2nd place, I have the Miami Dolphins. You looking at that team, they added Braxton Berrios, who is a not very good, but he's a pretty solid and consistent kick and punt returner. He's going to be doing both. And then they also, not much to say on that special teams. Jason Sanders is a solid kicker. Moving on to 3rd place, I have the Buffalo Bills, mainly because Tyler Bass. I think he's one of the better kickers in the league. Tyler Bass. Naheem Hines, who is quietly a pretty good kick and punt returner as well. He is going to be the kick and punt returner. I do think that will be pretty interesting because, again, him and Braxton Berrios are pretty solid kick and punt returners on special teams. So I do think that will be interesting and cool to watch. And then finally, in 4th place, we have the New York Jets. Greg Zuerlein, their kicker, getting older. And then Mecole Hardman at the kick and punt returner, another guy who's pretty fast and did get a lot of reps at punt and kick returner in Kansas City. But yeah, guys, that is my 2023 AFC East positional tier ranking video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys would change. Let me know what you guys disagree with, what you guys agree with. I hope you guys enjoy. And remember, if you guys want me to do a division, like a tier ranking video on a different division, let me know. Comment down below. I'd be more than happy to do it. I'm just doing this division because the Patriots are my favorite team, and I figured I could do a tier ranking video with them. I do think the Patriots are going to have one of the better defenses in the league. That secondary is looking dominant. That offense, I do think it will be better with Bill O'Brien now there at offensive coordinator. Hopefully Mac Jones can have another good year 3 and kind of look like his rookie year. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been Jay Lay, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.